one. Ladies and gentlemen, people are kind of tired. There's this game we call politics, where we only have two possible parties that we can vote for, either the pure left as a voting base, or with liberal values, or the pure right nowadays. And the centrist is that bastion that's supposed to be the protection for people to be able to vote for in the middle without having to go for the far extremes. Opposition makes that bastion unsafe and leaning to one political ideology instead of being the safe ground for those people and voters that they expect. I want to make what we said clear here. Please don't get us misrepresented because I'm gonna try to because we want to say that preserving the political identity and history of what it truly means to be moderate and centrist is super important. That is to say, yes, short-term relevance is important, but the point in which it contradicts your long-term identity, but fundamentally, a lot of these values contradict each other, and that's what Joseph told you about. This is a debate about political strategy. It's exactly because of the shift that OG concedes that leads to the entirety of the moderate and centrist party, leads to an assassination of moderate and centrist beliefs, ladies and gentlemen. We understand that getting votes is super important, and we can concede that it might take longer for moderate and centrist parties to gain relevance, but being a minority in itself amid a very radical far left and far right political spectrum is a safe haven for people to align to given their relevance as a swing party. So the two most important things I think we need to do in this debate is simple. One, be able to keep their values in a leadership position. And two, being able to actually make proper change even in the far right as the popular people and vote right now. So what am I going to do in my speech? It's simple. I'm going to tell you why you will still be able to get votes as a centrist party and how you're still able to make the best possible changes in our side. But before that, I'll get into extension. Rebuttals. OG makes a dangerous concession that because of the shift to the far right, it becomes good for the moderate and centrist to align with them. Madam Chair, imagine the optics this does for people within the moderate and centrist party of the people who supported them, donated them, and voted for them. They start seeing that you are eaten by the very system you systematically and historically have rejected. Imagine the women who are now invalidated when an anti-abortion rhetoric comes out there. Imagine the queers who are now further alienated and pushed to the margins because you want to backtrack the progress we have made in same-sex marriage. Imagine immigrants who are now having an even more difficult time getting their visas, securing permanent residency. A lot of people and constituents of which these parties are supposed to serve get absolutely turned off and wrecked. You can't say that, that's something that the centrists believe, because centrists don't actually believe all those things, ladies and gentlemen. What you get in OG is a huge case of hyperbolic discounting and the genuflection to short-term thinking. They think you are able to de-radicalize the right, but because of the very characterization OG tells you, it's likely for the moderate and centrist to shift right. This is bad because of the things Joseph told you, of which we heard little to no response towards. Let me give you many other alternatives we can do to get votes in the short term without sacrificing identity and shifting to far right. We can improve our marketing and positions and promote the minority leaders in these moderate and centrist parties. This means improving your stance and the way you communicate instead of hopping over to the right and expecting them to solve all your problems. At best, this is all an illusion of discourse, because in reality, the voices of the people you represent and their interests get crowded out. So my extension is simple now. Why we need to keep maintaining this centrist value and stay consistent for not only votes, but to actually gain power. So the centrist party is supposed to be the bastion of protection, as we told you before, for those people that can't go for the far right ideals of, anti-abortion, all that, and far left ideals of whatever they believe in. This means that it's an expectation to be held in the centrist, and you have to keep and maintain that expectation, or people will start losing hope on you. And then a second thing is people are tired of polarization. They don't want people to have any super far right or far left ideals. you can see Trump actually abused this system as he called himself a centrist, especially in voting periods. This is because the average mean of people is centrist and don't really have any of those far right ideals and far left ideals. So listen to this. This is the most important part. Genuflecting and siding with the right will eventually give them too much power to the right-wing parties and actually dilute your power. What do I mean by this? Well, a parliament has 700 persons, guys. This means that when you vote for a person in a seat who aligns to an ideology, it means that ideology becomes stronger and be able to have more legislative powers to put what they believe. And wait, you need to understand that the parliament of the EU is a proportional representation. And this means that you are now and you're likely to share your votes within these right-wing parties. And what ends up happening is the right-wing parties who are already pretty strong get even more stronger as they are proportionally voted more, ladies and gentlemen, because the more votes they have means the more legislative changes that they can make. Now, before 6 minutes, I'll take your POI. Go. Hello, POI.
Sorry, my microphone problems. POI. A lot of these parties already maintain very anti-immigration or are not as well. They're not progressive parties as like you're putting them to do so. They do not look at immigrants as their main voter base. Their main voter base are probably those who are being slowly siphoned off by the far right. And by showing that you are willing to work with the far right voters, you're able to gain them back.
So So they're saying that, it's not immigrants. Guys, I told you, anti-abortion, women, just women in general, centrist, anti-abortion, gay marriage. I feel like you could still have a middle of centrist people around there, and they're not always far left, unless you're telling me all women are left sides here. So to genuflect, we're telling you, the point in which you genuflect and tell them that, you're awesome, means you give them too much power, and the parliament itself has more right-wing representatives than centrist representatives. And what ends up happening, you can't actually make changes when you are the minority now and maintain that minority, because you're giving them even more votes to keep that power, and those de-radicalized discussion you have will only be right-wing discussion that has so much people within the seats of power in the right wing, because these are multiple persons in a proportional. So that's why we need to maintain our values as centrist persons. And heck, we argue that might be better to actually vote for these left-wing people, for them to be able to have more people that are against the right wing, so we have balanced discussion instead of one side circle. I'm not allowed to say that. The one side being able to have this echo chamber. I've never been more proud to host this debate. Thank you.